Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, I want you to picture society for a second. Think of it as a massive, intricate tapestry. Every single person, every culture, every tradition, they all represent a distinct, brightly colored thread. Now, on their own, they're unique, but when they're woven together, they create something incredibly resilient and beautiful. Today, we are going to look at exactly how that tapestry is woven, and we'll be focusing heavily on one of the most vibrant examples in the world, India.
Here is our roadmap for today. First, understanding diversity. Second, why are we different? Third, the challenge of prejudice. Fourth, unity in diversity. And finally, a source of strength. This agenda acts as our syllabus to logically unpack both the beautiful threads of diversity and the challenging tangles we face along the way.
Section 1. Understanding diversity. Okay, let's dive into this and define the individual threads that make up our everyday lives.
At its most fundamental level, diversity just means difference. It's the whole shebang. It encompasses everything from the languages we speak and the food we eat to the clothes we wear, our religions, cultures, and festivals. Take India, for example. It is a land of absolutely incredible diversity. Traveling across the country, you're going to encounter a multitude of languages, religions, and entirely distinct styles of dance and music. These elements are the unique colors of our societal tapestry. They give a region its true identity.
But you know, diversity isn't just some random fact of life. It's a distinct advantage. Because we're different, we are constantly in a position to learn from one another, and that exposure naturally encourages tolerance and mutual respect. I mean, think about it. Without these differences, society would be incredibly boring, right? It's exactly this variety of thought, tradition, and experience that acts as the foundational structure of a really strong, colorful community.
Moving right along to Section 2, why are we different? Let's explore how these unique threads get their colors in the first place.
So, where do these differences come from? They don't just pop out of thin air. They're shaped by powerful external forces. We're talking history, migration, cultural exchange, and geographical conditions. Human beings are literally wired to be adaptable. Over centuries, people naturally adjust to their specific environments, and that adaptation fundamentally alters their lifestyle. The clothes they need to wear, the crops they can grow, the houses they build, all of this is dictated by where and how they live.
And this brilliantly illustrates that point. Let's compare two regions in India, Kerala in the south and Kashmir in the north. Their diets are vastly different. Down in the coastal tropical climate of Kerala, the staple diet revolves heavily around rice and fish. Meanwhile, up in the mountainous, way colder climate of Kashmir, the traditional diet relies on wheat and meat. This isn't just a random preference. It's a direct result of totally different geographical conditions leading to distinctly different agricultural and lifestyle adaptations.
But geography is really only half the story. Let's compare Kerala and Ladakh. Physically, worlds apart. Kerala is lush and coastal, while Ladakh is this cold, high-altitude desert. Yet, if we look closely at their histories, we find this fascinating parallel. Both of these regions were heavily influenced culturally by Chinese and Arab traders who traveled there centuries ago. It shows us that even when geographical environments are completely different, shared historical trade routes wove surprisingly similar cultural influences into both regions. Section 3. The challenge of prejudice. Now we need to examine the knots and tangles in the tapestry where society really struggles.
Let's talk about prejudice. Essentially, it means thinking someone is inferior without actually knowing them, and treating them unfairly purely because they're different. It's an internal bias, a snap judgment that happens when we fail to approach differences with an open mind. And unfortunately, these internal thoughts don't usually just stay in our heads. They actively harm the fabric of society.
Let's move to and see how this builds into discrimination. If prejudice is the internal thought, discrimination is the external action. As you move from thought to action, discrimination occurs when differences, things like caste, sex, or religion, are used to treat people unequally. It is the real-world manifestation of those prejudiced snap judgments. When society begins to act on its prejudices, it starts actively pulling the threads of our tapestry apart.
Which brings us to the structural result of all this: inequality. This happens when a person is systematically denied the resources and opportunities that are freely available to everyone else. The flow is distinct, kind of like a domino effect. Prejudice leads to discrimination, and persistent discrimination literally locks people out of opportunities, ultimately cementing inequality into the very structure of a society. A very clear historical example of this progression is the caste system. Historically, this system divided society into different groups based strictly on the work they did. The crucial and restrictive element was that a parent's profession dictated the child's profession. Under this strict structure, for example, a potter's son was only allowed to be a potter. He couldn't just choose to be a scholar or a merchant. By rigidly dividing society by inherited work and restricting mobility, the system systematically locked people into specific roles. This directly caused and perpetuated deep-rooted systemic inequality.
Section 4. Unity in Diversity. Let's shift gears from the sociological challenges back to the resilient, unifying big picture.
Because the truth is, despite all of these vast differences in language, geography, and background, people still manage to share common traditions and core values. Think about national festivals like Independence Day in India. It doesn't matter if you're from the coast of Kerala or the mountains of Ladakh. That day is celebrated universally across the nation. This shared celebration, this common heartbeat among incredibly different people, forms the very backbone of the phrase, unity in diversity.
Consider this profound thought from Jawahar Nairu's book, The Discovery of India. He wrote that Indian unity is not something imposed from the outside. Rather, it is something much deeper. Within its fold, the widest tolerance of belief and custom was practiced, and every variety acknowledged and even encouraged. I love that. True, lasting unity doesn't come from forcing everyone to be exactly the same. It comes from an internal, deep-seated tolerance and an active encouragement of our differences.
And finally, Section 5, a source of strength. Let's look at how this deeply woven unity became an ultimate weapon.
When the British ruled India, they looked at this massive diversity and saw a vulnerability. They thought they could easily use a divide and rule tactic. Well, they completely miscalculated. The people of India showed exactly how they could maintain their distinct differences while being completely united in purpose. Men and women from every cultural, religious, and regional background stood side by side. Rich and poor, Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs, they all gathered together to protest. They recognized that their diversity wasn't a weakness. It was absolutely their underlying source of strength.
Now, what's really interesting here is how this profound unity formed even in the face of absolute adversity. The Jallianwala Bagh massacre in Amritsar was a horrific tragedy where unarmed, peaceful people were fired upon. But in the aftermath of this immense pain, the diverse population didn't fracture. Instead, shared songs of protest and remembrance emerged, binding all these diverse groups together in a unified demand for justice.
Out of that struggle, powerful symbols emerged. Songs and symbols became constant, everyday reminders of a rich tradition that respected diversity. The Indian flag wasn't just a piece of cloth. It was an active symbol of protest and unity, held by people of every background. And India's national anthem, composed by Rabindranath Tagore, serves to literally sing the diverse regions of the country together. These national symbols effectively wove the vastly different threads of the population into a single, unbreakable, resilient identity.
So, as we wrap up, we have to ask, why does understanding all of this actually matter for us today? Well, grasping the true nature of diversity helps us become actively open-minded. It directly teaches us to respect people whose threads look different from our own. And when we have that respect, we naturally reduce societal conflicts and pave the way for true equality. It's the ongoing maintenance required to keep our societal tapestry strong.
I want to leave you with this final thought. We've seen how geography shapes us, how prejudice divides us, and how unity empowers us. But remember, this isn't just history. It's the world you walk into every single day. So how can you actively practice tolerance and open-mindedness in your own diverse community today? How will you choose to weave your own positive threads into the tapestry around you? Take a moment to really think about that. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.